Welcome to Timeless Chronicles, 12 stories from history. People keep getting wrong. Medieval people weren't covered in filth. The term Middle Ages likely doesn't conjure up images of clean, well-groomed people. Instead, it typically brings to mind people with filth-smeared faces and fingernails caked with dirt. A lawsuit over scalding coffee at McDonald's was anything but frivolous. In February 1992, in Albuquerque, NM, a piping hot cup of McDonald's coffee spilled on the legs of 79-year-old Stella Liebeck, who went on to sue McDonald's and win $2.9 million in damages. The Spanish flu didn't come from Spain. One of the deadliest pandemics in modern history began in 1918, when a virulent strain of influenza spread across the world, killing more than 50 million people globally. It was commonly referred to as the Spanish flu. The Mayflower wasn't filled with religious asylum seekers. What elementary school student hasn't heard the story of the Pilgrims, the black and white clad English folk who journeyed across the Atlantic on the Mayflower in 1620 in search of religious freedom? According to this telling of history, English separatists, radical Protestants, who wanted to separate from the established Church of England, rather than purify it from within, turned to America as a refuge where they could practice their faith. The Boston Tea Party occurred because colonists were angry about a corporate tax break on December 16, 1773. The Sons of Liberty, a group seeking an end to what they considered unfair taxes and rule by the British in North America, helped organize a protest in which dozens of men rushed into Boston Harbor and dumped 342 tea chests into the frigid waters. Paul Revere never shouted, "The British are coming! The British are coming! The British are coming!" Early American patriot Paul Revere shouted these famous words as he raced from town to town during his midnight ride in April 1775, right? Alas, he did not. Revere's midnight ride really did happen, though. As a revolutionary, he was involved with protest and intelligence networks that sought to challenge British authority in the North American colonies. In April 1775, British regular troops were on the move, and Revere had the job of alerting fellow patriots to their movement. U.S. President William Howard Taft was never trapped in a tub. Of all the many myths about American presidents, among the most ridiculous is that 27th President William Howard Taft was so large that he got stuck in his bathtub. There is no evidence this ever happened. Corsets, generally, were not torturously tight. It's a trope Hollywood loves to repeat. Someone steps into a corset for the first time, and the overly restrictive laces squeeze all the air from their lungs. The wearer can barely move, and might even faint. Australian outlaw Ned Kelly's famous last words weren't what everyone thought they were. Bushranger. Ned Kelly was an Australian outlaw turned folk hero. After graduating from stealing horses and cattle to robbing banks, he and his gang gained notoriety and soon became some of Australia's most wanted criminals in the late 1870s. North America wasn't devoid of people when European colonizers arrived. It's a common misconception that when Europeans began to colonize North America, the Civil War was about slavery. Full stop. The Civil War remains one of the most significant events in American history. Historians have written academic tomes to mark every signpost on the road to war and parse every nuance that led to the clash between the federal government and rebel secessionists. There was no such thing as white slavery in the Caribbean. One stubbornly persistent myth that circulates on social media claims that Africans were not the only people forced into Atlantic slavery. Irish folks, so the claim goes, were enslaved too.